To an extent. I don't want to say Siri, but you have those voice commands that you can do. It's not going to integrate through Siri on your iPhone, though.
So, for example, sending a text message is not
no. Okay. It's only for listening to music, bringing up a contact in your contacts list, or navigating to a certain address. Purely just in that sense, not through Siri.
Okay.
Yep. I'm going to go ahead and close this out. And probably jump to the most important thing, which is going to be controls down there on the bottom left. So if you'll select that for me. There we go. And we'll start with Sunroof. Pretty simple interface. You can grab on that slider and slide it back and forth to open it, or you can actually tap on the glass there and move it to the position that you want. There it is. One thing I will go ahead and point out to you is, you see this line that goes across right there?
Mm-hmm.
That's actually about 80%. They call that the comfort position. And essentially they determined during testing that at that particular spot you have the least amount of buffeting, the kind of wind noise that you get. So if you're going down the highway, getting that, you can kind of minimize it by putting it at that line and come down.
So it's actually less buffeting in that exact position than more closed or more open.
Yeah, and I guess it's just because the orientation of the glass and then the little wind vane that pops up, that for some reason at that particular spot, that's where they...
The aerodynamic sweet spot.
Mm-hmm. Yep, there you go. And then, of course, closing it, you can either slide it back or just tap on close there, and that'll bring it back to that spot. Great. Okay, let's go to driving, just below Sunroof on the left-hand side. Okay. So your car's configured with the active air suspension, which is great. It's going to give you a real smooth ride by auto-leveling the car as you're driving along. It's also going to control the ride height to an extent, independent of you, or you can put in commands either way. So under normal driving conditions, it's in the standard ride height, which is what we're in right now. As soon as you get up over 55, it drops down into low automatically, so you have better aerodynamics on the highway. The high and very high modes are the two you would have to select on your own. So this might be steep driveways or pulling up to a parking stop and you have a wheel stop or curb there. Go ahead and raise it up, give yourself a little bit more clearance. Those are going to be speed sensitive. You can only engage very high at 5 miles per hour or less. If you're going 60 down the highway, hitting very high, it's not going to adjust it at all. Or high is going to be 15 miles per hour or less. As soon as you cross that 15 threshold, it'll drop to standard automatically and just stay there from that point. The jack button that you have listed there is actually a feature where, again, you have an auto-leveling air suspension, so it's giving you that smooth ride. But if you were to try to do any work on the car, jack it up and change a tire, it's actually going to want to level itself and it could adjust and come off the jack. So in that case, hitting the jack button would go ahead and disable auto-leveling, and everything would go ahead and stay even so you can do your work. Alright. Steering modes. You have the option for a sport, standard, and comfort. All this does is adjust the tightness that you feel when you turn the steering wheel. Sport's a very tight, very responsive steering, where on the opposite end of the spectrum, comfort is kind of a loose, floaty steering. Most people like standard, but you can go ahead and adjust it on the fly if you want. Traction control, pretty self-explanatory there. I'd go ahead and just leave that one on. Lots of torque to those rear wheels, so keeping it on is going to keep everything in control for you. Regenerative braking, you have the option for a standard and a low. Did you get to test drive this car before?
No.
You haven't? Okay. Have you driven an electric car before?
Only hybrid.
Only hybrid. Okay. Well, you might have noticed it to an extent, but regenerative braking is essentially a feature where, as you're going along, when you take your foot off the pedal, you're going to feel the car pull back on you, almost like you downshifted in a manual car. The idea there is it's actually taking the forward momentum of the vehicle and putting it back as energy into the battery, essentially. So in standard, it's going to maximize that. You're going to get more range and save wear and tear on your brakes because essentially the car is slowing down naturally. But if you didn't like that feel, you could slide it over to low. The car is going to coast more, behave more like an automatic. But as sort of a trade-off, you don't get quite as much range and you're going to have to use your brakes more. So yeah, you can kind of play with it, see what you like there. And creep is also kind of another interesting feature for electric cars. So with creep turned off, if you were on a level surface and you took your foot off the brake when the car was in drive, it would just go ahead and sit there. It's not going to move at all. Or, of course, if you're on any sort of incline, it's actually going to roll forwards or backwards based on that incline. It's like the car was in neutral, almost. If you turn creep on, it's going to keep the motor engaged. So once you take your foot off the brake, the car will start to roll forward just like a normal automatic gas car. So, again, something to play with there. The one thing I will go ahead and note is you can only adjust that when the car is in park. So if you get it on the road, decide that you want to slide it on, you have to put the car in park, adjust it, and then put it back in drive.
Okay.
Okay, let's go to trips just below driving on the left. There we go. Your 2 trip meters right there, showing you distance and the energy consumption over the distance. Right now it's just showing us moving around in the garage a little bit, but if you can go ahead and reset it, just hit reset A there, and then the red button that pops up, and reset B. And that'll clear out there. Great. One at the very top is showing you since the last charge. So whenever you plug it in, it's going to go ahead and zero out and then start from scratch as soon as you take it back on the road. We'll go to displays, just below trips. Okay. The car's automatically going to adjust between a day and a night mode based on brightness. So right now, since we're inside the garage, it's in night mode. As soon as we take it outside, it'll switch over to day. And if you want to dial that brightness up or down, you can go ahead and do that just by moving that slider right there. There we are. Okay, e-brake and power off, just below displays. Alright, so essentially that blue button there in the center does the exact same thing as this silver button here. If you bring the car to a stop, you can put it in park with either this button or this one. Both are also going to function as your emergency brake, so if you're going down the highway, you're trying to apply the brakes and you can't stop, holding this button down or holding that one down engages a secondary set of calipers and will bring the car to a stop. The difference between the two, though, is if you pull up and put it in park with this button, it assumes you're done driving. So as soon as you close the door, step out with the key, everything's going to go ahead and turn off automatically. If you put it in park with this button, though, it's going to leave the accessory systems up and running even after you have gotten out of the car with the key. The idea there being that maybe you're going into a store, somebody could still stay here in the car, use all the features and accessories, and do what they want to do, they just can't drive it. Of course, the easiest thing, if it's somebody you trust, just leave the key in here and they can still do all the same stuff. So, car power off. If you're sitting in the car with the key, it's going to think that you're going to be leaving soon, so it defaults to on like it is right now. But maybe you want to save a little power, you can just go ahead and power it down manually right there.
So I noticed that we've been sitting in the car talking for about 10 minutes now, and the range is still displayed as the same that it was when we got in. Is that accurate?
That is accurate, yep. Now, the overall accessory draw right now isn't much. I mean, essentially, we're just powering the screen, and that's about it. If we had the climate control system running, we might have lost maybe a mile or so by now, but really, overall accessory use isn't too big of a draw. Main thing is going to be driving. So rapid acceleration and high speeds are going to be the two biggest detriments on your range. Otherwise, sitting here like this, not using much at all.
Even though the headlights are on, too.
Yep, headlights have been on for, well, a couple minutes since we went ahead and switched it over to drive. Here shortly, though, it's going to go ahead and switch back to accessory mode automatically just to limit that, and you'll see the headlights come off. So we'll see. But generally speaking, when we're just sitting here in the garage talking about it, over the course of an hour, we might lose a mile or two, but not much.
That's great.
Doors and locks and lights, of course, fixed here at the bottom. Real simple setup. You can go ahead and pop the front trunk by pushing that button. Of course, it's not power assisted, so you'd have to walk around and close it manually. You can lock and unlock the doors there, so just like that. Open and close the rear trunk by pushing that button down here on the bottom right, and then open the charge port with the button on the bottom left. Again, it's not power assisted, so you'd have to close it manually. Lights, you have your dome there. They're currently in auto, so if we were to open the doors, put the car in park, that sort of thing, they're going to kick on, or you can manually operate them just by pressing this. There you go. Yep. And actually, want to slide them on and off, you can do it right there. Two in the front, two in the back. Okay. There we are. All right, ambient, our lights that are here in the doors in the front and the back. This kind of gives a little bit of accent lighting to the interior. They're only going to come on when the headlights are on, so you typically won't notice them unless it's dark out, of course. DRLs are your daytime running lights, so that's a kind of LED halo around the front headlight. Like for example, we go ahead and slide these to off. We'll see those are currently illuminated there on the screen. Okay. Fog lights, another feature that only comes on when the headlights are on. You can toggle those on and off just by hitting that. There we are. And your headlights currently in auto, so they're going to come on and off based on brightness. And again, since we're sitting inside, they've gone ahead and defaulted to on at this point. Alright, let's go up to settings. Very top, just the right of controls. And you'll see it's gone ahead and switched over to accessory mode since we've been sitting here. Alright, a lot of this stuff is things that you just kind of set at once and don't really have to worry about it, but we'll run through it really quick, just give you the overview. So let's go to apps at the very top. There we are. And media player. Okay. This car actually has two different internet radio-based accounts. One is called Slacker. It's similar to Pandora, Spotify, some of the other stuff that you'll find out there. Service that allows you to listen to radio stations either categorized by genre, or you can even create a custom station based on a particular artist. So you're actually getting the premium service with this car. It's not going to have any ads or limitations, and you can go ahead and activate that just by hitting the blue login button there. All right. While that's connecting, you have another internet radio app called TuneIn. TuneIn's actually a free service. It's already set up on the car, so you don't need to log in, but if you did have an existing account, you could put in username and password and activate it there. But you still use it just fine. TuneIn's pretty neat. You can listen to pretty much any radio station anywhere, so typing in a different country, different city, that kind of thing, bring up all the stations in that area. All right.
My wife will like listening to her classical music station from England.
There you go. Yeah, well, you should be able to find it right there. Let's go to apps.
Oh, we're on apps.
We are. We're just going to go back to the main screen there.
Oh, I see.
And maps and navigation. There you go. A way to adjust the magnification of the map icons that you see. One's good for most, but if we need to come back and make an adjustment, we can do it here. And we'll go to apps one last time and web browser. There it is. So, it's where you'd set your home page. It's currently set for teslamotors.com. You could type in a new address there if you wanted, or if you bring up the page in the browser, come back and hit use current, it's going to pull that address in there for you.
Okay.
All right. Let's see. Driver profiles we've already done. That's your seat settings, but if you want to add somebody else, you can do it there. Units and format. We'll get to that one next. Lots of personal preference stuff here, but everything's pretty much where most people want it. The one that I will point out is range display at the very bottom. So in the center there where it says 241, that's based on the EPA's rated range. So that's EPA's testing of the car, and it's most realistic for what your average American driver is going to get out there. But if you slide that over to ideal, that's Tesla's rather conservative driving estimate under ideal circumstances. I just leave it in rated, but you know, if you were doing a longer distance trip and you wanted to see what you could do if you were taking it relatively slow, about 50 miles or less, not using you know, heavy accessories, that kind of thing, then you can see that there. But otherwise, rated is going to be best overall.
Okay.
All right, let's go to vehicle, just below units and format. And a bunch of little settings here. I'll run through this real quick. Driveway door locks are currently on. Put the car in drive, start to accelerate, it's going to lock the doors automatically. Child protection locks, pretty self-explanatory. I imagine you're going to want to leave those off, but if you do want to toggle them on and off, you can do it there. Walkaway door locks was that feature I was telling you earlier about, you know, when you go ahead and put the car in park, close all the doors, walk away from the car, it's going to lock itself automatically. So that's something you might want to turn on, or you can manually do it either way. Auto present handles is a feature we saw earlier. Leave the zone around the car, come back up to it, it's going to present the handles automatically for you. Mirror auto tilt, currently off, but if you did turn that feature on, whenever you put the car in reverse, it's going to go ahead and pan the mirrors down so you can see curbs, that kind of thing. Now, one thing we will have to do with that is actually set the point that those mirrors go to. So to do that, put your foot on the brake for me. There we go. And now let's put the car in reverse, so just push that all the way up. And go ahead and select a mirror there and pan it down to whichever point you want it to go to. Okay, and we'll do this side over here. Good. Seems good. All right, just going to hit save here on the screen, and then go ahead and put it back in drive for me. All right, those come back up. And let's do reverse one more time just to make sure they go down where they're supposed to. Okay, perfect. All right, so we'll engage the parking brake. You can just press that silver button in. And we're good. Okay, security alarm. Currently on. It's just a basic intrusion sensor, so when you lock the car, if anybody tries to open the doors after that point, it's going to set off the alarm. Headlights after exit. If you were to turn this feature on, whenever you get out of the car, your headlights will remain illuminated for 2 minutes after you step out. Essentially just better illuminate garage, exterior of your home, that kind of thing. Driving, you have the option for range mode. Not really necessary for your day-to-day stuff, but if you were taking a longer trip and you turn range mode on, it's going to limit the consumption of the climate control system by about half. So it's going to cut down how high that fan can ramp up in your climate system. It's also going to limit the temperatures that you can set it for. Idea there is you're saving power to keep you driving, but of course the car is not going to heat and cool itself quite as efficiently. So a little bit of a trade-off. Okay. Mobile app remote access, we can go ahead and turn that on down there. And this will allow you to remotely access the car from the Tesla Model S cell phone app that's out there now. So you can actually check on the state of charge, you can lock and unlock it, preheat and cool the car, do all kinds of stuff right from your cell phone there. Alright, and we'll go to HomeLink. Okay, so this is where you'd set up an existing garage or gate opener. It's a real simple interface. Once you actually do it, it's going to walk you through with pictures and instructions showing you what you're supposed to do. All you'll need is a remote for one of those existing devices, and you'll type in a name, hit create HomeLink. It's going to prompt you to walk to the front of the vehicle and then take your remote, push the button down, and hold it against that front bumper. Car will be searching for the signal. As soon as it finds it, the headlights flash to indicate that it's picked it up. If it's a newer garage door motor, one that has a roaming code, you might have to get up there and hit a learn button. If that's the case, the car will let you know automatically.
Great.
Okay. Let's close out this window. X in the top left.
Why don't we stop and start it fresh?